welcome to another episode of Youth and the Road to 2018. My name is Lovejoy Mutongwiza and I'll be your host. In this program, we talk to youths and we engage them on different topics, and we talk to youths from different spheres of life, and we invite them to share their views as we head towards the 2018 elections. Today on the program, I have with me two ladies, and I will let them introduce themselves.
Thank you, Lovejoy. My name is Linda Masarira. I'm an human rights defender and a socio-economic and political activist, and an aspiring member of parliament for Harare Central in the 2018 elections under the People's Democratic Party's ticket.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. I am Nokuthula Rishidzo. I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm passionate about women and girls issues. I'm a Yali alumni, and also I'm aspiring to be a councillor in the 2018 elections.
All right, great. So let's get into it. Today we are paying particular attention to women and their participation in the 2018 elections. And as has become the norm, a number of women, they've been coming out and they've been trying to, up their voices and trying to take up positions as we head into 2018. Linda, I would start with you. Why do you think all of a sudden we are having a lot of women, young women to be precise, coming out in the open and declaring their ambitions to take part in these big political positions?
Young women are now rising because they've been excluded in a lot of our decision-making processes over the years. You realize that even in our different political parties, the internal party democracy was designed in such a way that young women were not given that opportunity to realize themselves and their potential. We can look, for example, at the 60 seats in parliament that were reserved for proportional representation. You will hardly find a young woman in that position because young women had always been sidelined to doing the paltry activities in political parties. But you also realize that as young women, we are the now and we are the future. We are the ones that need to secure the future for our children. And we are the ones who have been marginalized. We've got no jobs and our future looks really bleak. And it is only us, the young people, who can transform our situation so that we can have policies that are pro-women, policies that, that encourage investment and all that, so that we can lead sustainable lives at the end of the day. I think that has been a major motivator for young women to rise and say, we are running for office, we want to be there in the positions of decision making and make the best decisions for all young women in Zimbabwe and the youth in Zimbabwe.
All right. Recently, government revised the gender policy, and now they're saying they want 50-50. They're advocating for 50-50 representation in all spheres, be it social, be it economic, be it political. I'll come to you, Noko. Why do you think this can also trigger this coming out of women in the open?
Yes, I think whereby you see that the environment is being conducive and allowing and actually encouraging young people to rise up. It's also a trigger, but it's not really a trigger in another way whereby we all have always wanted to rise up. But sometimes you see that the environment wasn't conducive. You would actually have no space, no right to actually say it out. You might be involved in political parties, but you have got no say how. Or even if sometimes we had fear to just even be intimidated or be beaten up, because we have seen that young people are rising up, but sometimes people disappear, people just, suffer for no reasons. But we are wanting to raise up our voices. We are wanting actually to be the change that we are looking for. So you see that the 50-50 gender policy that has been stated, it's a trigger, and it's helping us actually to drive upon that Basque.
Okay, you talk about having the country not having a conducive environment for women previously, and now do we have a conducive environment that allows women to take part in politics?
We might not really say we have a conducive environment, but you know what? When you are tired of not getting anything that you have worked for, we are people who are even educated. We are people that are actually building up the economy, but not seeing the actual effects of your sweat. So hence you then get tired and just tell yourself, you know what, it's time. It's time for me to sit in those seats and make policies that will affect my children, the next generation. Some of them won't even benefit us, but we are building a better future for the next generation that is coming tomorrow.
All right, I'll come to you, Linda. Still on Noko's point, what would be the best or the most conducive environment for women to, you say, we now have a free and a good environment to take part? Political space. Firstly,
I think I should highlight how short women are in representation. You'll find that in council we only have 16% of women who are councillors, 12% in the Senate, and 33% in Parliament. And I was happy yesterday when I heard Rita Makarau saying when they're going to open up the process for nominations, they're calling on all political parties to bring in a zebra list where there's one woman, one man, one woman, one man. And I think that will enable us to be able to achieve the 50-50 gender representation in the next parliamentary elections. And you also realize that 50-50 gender representation is still on paper, yet it is an attribute of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which is the supreme law. You'll find that even in companies, in boards, there are still more women than men. And it actually boggles my mind how there are so many men who are the lesser in the population, because men are only 48% and women are 52%. But they always want to close out women who are the majority. And as such, you realize that we have been failing to have laws which protect women fully, because we've got men who do not even understand women issues. That is not why now women are coming out and saying we have to take charge of our destiny. We have to get there into the decision-making forums and be able to make decisions which benefit women. For example, if the majority of councillors were women, I don't think there will be water problems in Zimbabwe, because women understand how terrible it is to live without water, because they're the ones who have to go and look for water and carry it on their heads day in and day out. If we had more women parliamentarians, we would be having more laws that are pro-women, that protect women, and that will actually advocate for space for women to be able to make decisions that are favorable to women, which unfortunately hasn't been happening for a very long time, because the parliament is full of men who are unfortunately there for their own self-aggrandizement, because they've not been able to align the laws of this land.
Let me cut you there, Linda. We have some women who are in parliament. Have they done enough to push for a political space that is conducive for women?
I can say they're trying, but they haven't done enough, because you still find that there's still political violence against women. And which is one thing that we are also advocating as women, that we want an even playing ground. We want a violent-free political space, because it is my constitutional right to run for office. It is every woman's right to run for office. But when I want to run for office, why should I get arrested for running for office? And when I express myself fully, it is my constitutional right to express myself as an activist. Why do I get trumped up charges to arrest me and to put me behind bars for articulating issues which are affecting Zimbabweans and how they should be redressed?
All right. Is there, okay, I'll come to you, Noko. Is there encouragement amongst women, especially the young women, to say, you know what, guys, we need to gang up, we need to, come up together, and it doesn't matter if you're from Zanu-PF or MDC, from across all political divides, just to come up and say, you know what, guys, we have to do this thing. We have to come up with a strategy on how we're going to be, going along to 2018. Have you done that?
Yes, actually, there are a few CSOs that are trying to actually encourage young people to rise up into political spheres, and they are actually the trainings that are going on. I won't talk about it on record, but there are actually people that are actually trying to build up. Because sometimes it's not always just about the passion of running. It's actually about how do you run? How do you actually handle the political sphere? How do you get nominated? How do you get yourself to be in the right place and have the right things to run for office? So I feel that, yes, there are people, but now it's not only about these people trying to teach us, but it's about us young people rising up. It's about us young people taking the stand and actually making a decision. We want to rise up and we want to run for office. We want to take up seats. Because some of these young ladies are still intimidated by the people that are seated in the current seats. But it's not about, don't look at about the people in the current seat. Make a decision to rise up and say, I want to rise up. And talk to us. There are people that are helping young ladies.
All right. Linda, I'll come to you again. I read somewhere that you are running for a certain constituency. This is after Fadzima here declared that she wants to run. Do you think Fadzi inspired you to want to come out and run for a constituency?
Point of correction. I think I'm the first one who actually spoke of intentions to run for Harare Central seat in May. The only reason why I announced later is we had processes that we had to do as a party, of which, as a party, People's Democratic Party, of which I am a member there. So I could not, come out in the open when we had not finished the processes that we're doing, like the selection processes within the party for candidates who are going to run for 2018 elections. I think if you can go back to the social media, I think I announced that in May that I was going to be running for office after I had spoken to the people I'm supposed to be representing in Harare Central. All
right. What prompted you to say now is the time? Now I want to contest for Harare Central. You know, it has been an MDC constituency Harare Central, and now you are coming in as Linda Masarira, an entity. Maybe you just have that, activism background, but now you are saying I want to grab the bull by its horn.
We should, I think firstly, I would like to highlight that there's an adage which says, once a railway man, always a railway man. Behind the railway station in Harare, there are more than 2,000 railway employees who have been marginalized, who have been disenfranchised by the ruling party. They are living in terrible conditions, using communal toilets this day and age, and they've got no water. And I also relate to that because I've stayed there before, and I know how hard it is for a family to stay in one room, because the accommodation that's behind the railway station was meant for bachelors. Those who were going for training and under apprenticeship and all. And the current MPs haven't done much to alleviate the problems of the suffering NRZ workers. And I believe that I've got a responsibility as well to ensure that NRZ workers receive labor justice. They've been suffering for years, since time immemorial. And I think priority to ensure that all workers receive their salaries on time. Because running for office is not only for just representing the people that will be in that constituency, but you become a national, figure, because you have to make laws. But this is what the current legislators don't know. They seem to take being an MP as a job, of which being a member of parliament is not a job. You've got a responsibility, which is to enact laws which are favorable to your constituency and to the people of Zimbabwe. And we haven't seen that happening with the current parliamentarians that we have right now. So I think that is one thing that moves me, that I have to make a change for the suffering NRZ employees.
All right, fine. We have had MPs coming in giving a lot of promises. Most of them, they go, they're just empty promises just because they want to get in power, right? As Linda Masarira, you're coming in. What can you say is the different thing that distinguishes you from the rest of the MPs that are there? What's your plan in turning around Harare Central?
My plan, firstly, is to ensure that young people's socio-economic rights are realized. You find that a lot of young people have turned into prostitution. They're now drug addicts. They are hopeless, jobless, and cashless. But all this can be addressed at the legislative level. Okay. Our investment policy is lucrative for investment, and all this should be done at legislative level. And I cannot keep on running the streets demonstrating, yet we're not realizing what we're demonstrating for. People are suffering, and we cannot go on like this. I tend to look at the future. What is the future of Zimbabwe like with the current government that we have and the current legislators that we have, which have actually lost reality with the real issues affecting young people and Zimbabweans at large? And I think sometimes we need to get the people who are affected. I'm in that bracket. I'm equally affected. I was fired from work. I know what it's like to be jobless. I know what it's like to spend a night without food. I've been there before. And it is a conviction that I have that no one should go through what I have gone through. And I have that generational mandate and obligation to ensure that we secure the future of all Zimbabweans, including my children. I'm a people person. I'm passionate about people's welfare. And that is what drives me. And that is my motivating factor, which a lot of Zimbabweans don't have. That's why the other day I asked, where is our Ubuntu? What has happened to us? We don't care about the next person. Most Zimbabweans just care if my things are okay and I've eaten and I'm driving my nice car, then that's okay. But that has destroyed our Ubuntu and who we are as a people. That is why a lot of people are jobless and sleeping on the streets, because we have ceased to love each other. There's absence of love. We are good at critiquing and ridiculing each other at the expense of development. We need to work together as young people to develop Zimbabwe. We need to take charge of our destiny and work for a better Zimbabwe.
All right, speaking of advocating for a better Zimbabwe, are we now saying rest in peace to your activism career?
No. Running for office does not mean that I'll neglect my national duty. Activism is a national duty.
All right.
There are issues that have to be addressed in the activism sphere, and that I will continue to do. And fortunately enough, People's Democratic Party does not hinder me from doing that. And that is the hallmark of democracy. We have to define what activism is. Activism is championing for social, economic, and political change. And that cannot stop because I'm not running for office. But it is actually complementing my activism, because if I'm championing for social, economic, and political change, then I go into parliament and make sure that we lobby for the laws that are favorable for the very same change that I'm championing for.
All right. Yeah, great. All right, I'll come to you, Noko. Do you think young women have what it takes to, to be amongst this male-dominated sphere, this political sphere? Young women.
I believe we have it. We have it. We have it. I'll repeat it again. Nothing stops us. We are women naturally are born leaders. Women rise up to the occasion at any time. Leave a 10-year-old with a small baby. They can take care of that baby. Women rise up to take care of families. Women are abandoned at any age. They rise up to the occasion. They don't abandon their responsibilities. Women are builders. So as young women, we believe in accountability, transparency, and good governance. I believe that we have suffered enough, and we know what we want. We want a free and fair, first of all, election. Also, we want a good, conducive environment whereby there are equal opportunities for everyone, be it a man, be it a woman, be it young, be it old. We also want innovative. We also want to scale up into the world trends. We also want our industries to rise up. We also want our children to have good education, be it at a government school, be it at a private school. So we believe that every young woman has got the guts and has got every leadership quality.
Are you going to be taking part in any? Are you going to go for any leadership?
I'm running for councillor.
Where?
In Harare Central with Linda.
Ah, great. So why is this important? This 2018 elections important to you as young women?
It's time for us, because you know what? The truth is, if you don't enter the sphere of politics, of governance, I won't even say politics, governance, it will take you 5 years later for you to then rise up. So we are saying, no, we can't wait for another 5 years. It's time for us now to start working on the economy, start working for our country, start being the voice for the voiceless, start actually representing the marginalized people, start actually thinking of the tomorrow. It's not going to be an automatic turnaround, but it's going to take time. But we are saying it's time for us to enter into the spheres of making decisions right now.
All right. Linda, I'll come to you. One day, just one day, do you harbor any presidential ambitions?
Yes.
And when can that be?
2028.
That's 10 years from now.
Yes.
All right, still on that one. In Zanu-PF, there's been these factional wars, the G40, the Lacoste, and then in the G40 camp, in the alleged G40 camp, the First Lady, Grace Mugabe, she is allegedly one of the ringleaders there, right? And her name has been thrown around as a potential successor to President Mugabe. And she's a woman, and you are also a woman. Would you one day be clamoring for, would you support a Grace Mugabe president?
I would never support
but she's a woman.
Grace Mugabe's
she's a woman?
Yes, I think we also have to understand that it's not all about being a woman, but it is also about integrity.
Okay.
And it is also about how you relate to the people you purport to want to lead.
So, in other words,
what I'm basically saying is Grace Mugabe has displaced a lot of women in Mazoe. She's on record of looting and attaching a lot of state resources. And I mean, honestly, in all fairness, we cannot vote for a person who's looting resources that are supposed to be benefiting the people of Zimbabwe. That's why I emphasize that it's about integrity. If you are a woman and you want to run for office, you have to earn it. You have to have the capacity. Not just to say, I am a woman, you have to vote for me. We should also look at the deliverables. Is she able to deliver? And that is what is important. Okay. And in all fairness, and in all objectivity, I would never vote for Amai Mugabe.
Interesting. Right. Let's now move on to the difference between a rural woman and most of you guys who are coming out and saying we want these positions are from, in fact, all of you are from the urban, centers. How about the rural woman? What have you done about her, the rural young woman?
Okay, what we have done as Zimbabwe Women in Politics Alliance, we've been doing some grassroots campaign where we are also encouraging women in rural areas and peri-urban areas to run for office. It hasn't been an easy task. I remember about a month ago in Bindura, we addressed nearly 100 women, and they were highlighting there were challenges on why they cannot run for office, of which most of them were violence. They are afraid of the violence that is perpetrated against candidates. And they would rather protect their families than run for office. And we also in the process of trying to start trainings and workshop programs with these very women to understand that it is their constitutional rights. The other time we went to Chiweshe, and in Chiweshe they're also highlighting the same things, that culturally you're not respected when you want to enter the political arena. You're termed a loose woman and all that, and those are the fears that they would have. But you would also notice that there are women of good capacity who can even lead at grassroots level, but they are marginalized because of some cultural norms which have not changed. And last week, the other week, we're in Mutare at a place called Kwachigodora. There were also the same sentiments that women raised, that we don't have enough knowledge about these issues. They actually didn't know that anyone can run for office as long as they are 21. For MPs and 18 for a council and all that. They don't know. So I think it is imperative that CSOs go down to the grassroots, go to the rural areas and teach those women so that they know. Women from the different rural areas I've gone to, women think that political positions are for men. And I think we still have a lot of work to do in encouraging those women to run for office, in encouraging those women as well to stand up and fight for their rights, as I've been mentoring grassroots activism for the past 2 months now, because I realized that it is very important to have people advocating for their rights in whatever space they are in, because women have been marginalized and excluded for a very long time.
All right. No, cool. the youth vote is considered to be key heading into 2018, right? And we are now talking about the young women and the rural urban young women. In 2013, when I went to vote, that was my first time of voting, right? I noticed there was just a few young girls who were voting. Why is that so? Why do girls shun away from, voting, the voting process itself? What's causing all that?
It's, I think, lack of knowledge. And
What knowledge?
Of just knowing that you can actually make a difference with your vote. I'll tell you, I haven't voted yet. I'm 30, but I've never voted before.
Did you register in 2013?
I did not register because I felt that I'm wasting my time.
Okay.
I felt that if they need to actually do it, it is the environment, everything, logging, accounting towards the elections, it wasn't worth it. So, but now, after actually realizing how bad the situation is, I just decided actually to say it's time for me to actually rise up and air out my voice. So that's why I'm saying no matter what, I'm advocating, and we're actually working to actually tell the young ladies out there, the young men out there, that actually your vote matters. And we are happy that everyone is being allowed to register to vote. And we're going to go out there and actually lobby people to actually do a lot of voter education for them to know that their voice matters. Because sometimes I feel people actually feel that their voice doesn't matter. They feel that, okay, they're already rigged, they're already what. But no, we're actually telling them that their voice matters.
Okay. All right. Linda, Nok raised an interesting point here on voter education, and now we're heading to 2018 elections. ZEC hasn't done that as yet. What's your comment on that?
It's true, ZEC hasn't done anything as yet, and yesterday I was actually at their offices in the afternoon trying to find out how we can work together as Zimbabwe women in politics to start the voter education. But unfortunately, because of the new BVR registration system that is coming out, they also highlighted their grey areas, that they don't have the voter registration kits ready at all. And I think we are going to have a very big challenge coming to the 2018 election and the BVR registration, because the BVR needs to be gazetted and proclaimed, etc., and that's a long process. And we are fast running out of time. And I foresee a situation where most people are going to fail to register. And we also have a challenge of a lot of people with no IDs, with no birth certificates. And we're not even sure if in the run-up to 2018 elections, the government is going to open up for free registration of IDs, because you understand that just to register an ID is $10. How many people can afford $10 to get an ID? That is a very big challenge. And the proof of residence requirement for registration, that is also another challenge, because we've got a lot of homeless people. People are living in the streets, but they are citizens of Zimbabwe. And even one who is a lodger, wherever they are lodging, they cannot even afford to buy the affidavit, and let alone to have it commissioned by the Commission of Oaths, which is $1. When we go to the rural areas, if a chief knows that you're in the opposition, is that chief going to give you a proof of residence? I mean, there are a lot of gray areas in the requirements of voter registration, which I think CSOs, activists, and political parties should converge and make sure they make enough noise about this requirement to be removed. Even if it means to go through the court processes, I think it is imperative and very important if you want to have at least a better political playing ground in 2018 elections.
All right, you are coming from a more informed position than, let me say, the rural young women, and you're saying you've been engaging them, you've been going to the likes of Chueshe and sort of. Have you tried in any of those meetings that you've had with those young ladies to engage young women on voter registration?
Yes, I did. That is where I am highlighting that most of them don't even have a birth certificate. That is where I got this information that I'm sharing right now, which is a very big challenge. And it's not only in the rural areas, we also have the farming areas. They are far away from the registration centers. That is why I was also saying, I think all the stakeholders should work together to ensure that every Zimbabwean at least have got an identity document so that they can register to vote.
All right. This is the program Youth and the Road to 2018, where we are talking on the importance of young women and the run-up to the 2018 elections. And don't forget to use the hashtag ZimVotes18 rather on our social media platforms. That's at 26Richard on Twitter and 26Richard on Facebook. Good. All right. Linda, we are now going to be talking about what are the challenges that hinder women to join or run for political positions?
The challenges that hinder women for taking up political positions, firstly, it is the intra-party violence, patriarchy, and exclusion. And also national exclusion. Women have always been excluded and been treated like second-hand material when it comes to running for political office or local authority office. And the other issue I think that has affected women is marriage. A lot of men will tell their wives, I know of a lot of women who want to run for office, who want to be heavily involved in politics, but they are told, politics. And it is also the political culture that has been there. And I know that this statement will get a lot of tongues lashing me, but it is true. A lot of women who've been in the political circles have been of very loose morals. And that has been like the concept that women who are in politics are of loose morals, of which that is a political culture that we have to change. I mean, politics relates to our day-to-day lives and how we're supposed to be surviving. It's not about who you're bedding or who you're sleeping with. And we have to change that political culture. I think that's why you see that now the more informed, more intelligent young people are saying we have to correct these issues and take charge of our destiny. Zimbabwe is where it is right now because of the misconception of the word politics. That is why we're in the quagmire that we're facing right now, because we have tried to identify politics with everything dirty. But politics runs this country and runs the world, and we cannot separate that from how we live. So I think those are the major challenges that have made women, both old and young, shun politics. But we have to get to a stage where we say we need to be in the decision-making bodies in every sphere of organizations, national levels, and whatever, because we constitute 52% of the population.
Great. Noku, early on, you talked about intimidation. You said women are intimidated, be it politically, economically. So how is this affecting young women in taking up political positions?
As we grew up, taichinzi moto unopisa, usabate moto unotra. So you turned to security as young women, who most of them can still be in their parents' houses, staying with their parents, under parents' rule. They are told not to get involved because it's not their space, or it's a violent space. Whereby, you know what, it's everyone's right to seek political position or to be in a space of governance. So I feel that we shouldn't be intimidated, and these girls should not be intimidated because of how the current situations of elections and everything have been groomed in Zimbabwe. But we should rise up and also do it in a peaceful way, so that this intimidation that I talked about, it's just mainly nyae hondo, nyae kurwa, if I can say it in African language. Ndo zvinonetsa. You can't voice out your opinion
without fearing for your life.
Without fearing for your life. Without fearing. Those were fears. Some of us have got young kids. So you tend to think, okay, is it worth it to sacrifice the time for my family, or is it worth it to live in fear? But sometimes now you then realize, okay, is it worth it to continue suffering? Is it worth it to live in a place whereby there's not development? Is it worth it to stand in queues for hours? Is it worth it to get educated and not get a job? Is it worth it to buy money? Is it worth it not to be able to make a transaction outside the country because you can't send money? Is it worth it? So you tend to talk about this on your own. And you then tend to see it's not worth it. So what should I do?
How then do you move on from such fears?
We are rising up now. We are now talking about it freely. We are now making the decision to stand up and voice our opinions. We are now saying it's time for people of other brains to actually think on how best we can work to build this country again. It's not about a political party, but it's a desire to build this nation again. It's a desire to build families again. It's a desire to live in a conducive environment whereby systems are followed, whereby you don't drive into potholes, whereby you've got water running in taps, clean water. Not having to buy drinking water, not having to buy looking for bowl water, not having all this. So it's just about having a social environment which actually helps development in the most natural way, if I can say.
Right. Now, we have maybe slightly over a year before the 2018 elections. Do you think it's enough time to psych up young women to say, you know what, guys, intimidation, we can do this? Or we are looking beyond 2018, maybe 2023?
No. Yeah, this 2018, it's time. It's not yet too late. People have not been nominated, haven't been finalized. If you have to stand as independent, go for it. It's time to just, have the courage and willingness to work, because it's not like you are taking up these positions for yourself, but it's the willingness to work for your nation, the willingness to build your nation. So you need to have that courage, that desire to think of the next person, not even to think of yourself, but to think, all right, who then will stand, who then will build? Because if we look back into history, most of these nations, they went in their teens, they went in their early 20s to build this nation and to fight for it. So it's the same. It's time for us young people to rise up and say, we want to build our nation in the most peaceful way.
All right, there's the program Youth and the Road to 2018, and we are talking to Linda Masarira and Nogutula. And Linda, I will come to you. You've been too critical of both the politics and the economics of the country, right? I'll come to the economics. You've been critical of the bond notes. But I would want to know the economic situation in Zimbabwe. How has this affected the young women?
The economic situation in Zimbabwe has affected women terribly. It is said that people don't realize the effects of our current economic situation. As we all know, let me start with the tertiary institutions. A lot of parents have to sell their fowls, their goats, cows to take their children to school. And most of the times they don't even have money to send again to their children to be able to buy food and to buy day-to-day things. And most of the students in tertiary institutions have now resorted to thigh vending, transactional sex.
Yes.
And that has destroyed the livelihoods of young girls in tertiary institutions. We look at the graduates. We've got more than 300,000 university students graduating each year to go into a space with no jobs, with no source of livelihood. And that has created a lot of young girls who are now grossly populating the avenues area, soliciting for sex. That is social degradation. You also find married women having extramarital affairs to be able to run the affairs of their homes. That is the effect of our economy on the livelihoods of young women and women at large. How many women do we see sleeping in the streets? Some vendors in the streets are now sleeping in the streets because they cannot even afford to go back home. I mean, this is terrible. I mean, we have to feel sorry for ourselves. We have to have the fire to change our situation. No one deserves to go through what women are going through in Zimbabwe. And why are we all quiet? Why are we so quiet when women are suffering? How many children are being born in the streets? Our hospitals have got no medication. They've got no water. Pregnant women are being forced to carry buckets of water from boreholes so that they can give birth. They're being forced to give birth without painkillers. For any woman who has given birth, they know how painful delivering is. But this is the sad situation and reality that women are facing on a day-to-day basis. Under normal circumstances, in countries where there are empowered women, I don't think women will be going through this. We have seen demonstrations and protests going on in the States about women issues. We have seen a day without women in UK. We have seen women protesting in different countries about their issues. And I think it's high time that women get out of their cocoons and say, we have had enough of this. We have had enough of suffering. We want jobs. We want the economy to be restored. We want to live in a proper country where there are equal opportunities and fairness. I'm actually lobbying for women to be allocated land. Women are hard workers. Give women land so that they do their horticulture, they farm, give them mines. I mean, Zanu-PF has to stop being selfish, using natural resources for their own self-aggrandizement, for them to get political power. At the end of the day, political power is there to run a nation, not to run the affairs of a cabal, just a few elitist people who think that they own Zimbabwe. We need to move from that. We need to serve the people of Zimbabwe. And how do we do it? That when every Zimbabwean is actively involved in saying enough is enough, we cannot suffer anymore.
This is offers something tangible. What are we going to do?
What really needs to be done, firstly, is to have inclusivity. Everyone has to be involved, whether it's the young people, the women, etc., etc. We can't keep on crying foul when we are not taking part in these activities. I mean, Zimbabweans need to get thirsty and hungry for knowledge, to know exactly what civil matters mean, what political issues mean to their livelihoods. Okay. We cannot keep on detaching ourselves from these realities. And secondly, there's a need for a paradigm shift in our political culture and the way we look into political issues. And thirdly, young people and women have been crying about exclusion for a very long time. Women and young people have to start including themselves. No one will include you when you don't want to be included. You have to start opening up those spaces for you. You have to start standing up for your rights. It's just so unfortunate that when we started opening up those areas where we were being excluded, you'll find that we are our own enemies. We start criticizing those who are trying to transform the situation. We have to support each other and stand together as Zimbabweans, as young people, as women, to fight this demon called Zanu-PF. And we cannot do it independently. I cannot do it alone. And every other activist who's doing it cannot do it alone. We need to work together and say, what is our future? How does our future stand? I have given an example to a lot of people that you're hustling right now and you think that everything is okay. But are you going to get a pension for hustling? What will happen to you when you're 70, when you can't hustle anymore? And what will happen to your children? It doesn't mean that if you can hustle, your children are going to be able to hustle. Everyone needs a job, needs a pension that will secure them. And why we need new leadership right now is because we have lost faith with the current leadership and they don't care about the welfare of Zimbabweans, and we need to change the situation in Zimbabwe. We need to restore the breadbasket status of Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is blessed with a lot of mineral resources. We've got very fertile lands that are being abused and lying neglected because Zanu-PF wants to use them for political power.
And then we have the Zimbabwe Zanu-PF, of course. Do you think they've done enough to promote youth empowerment?
They haven't done enough. I think I tried to highlight that when I was talking there, when I was saying we need to stop this partisan distribution of national resources. When there is a youth council, let it be a youth council for all the youth in Zimbabwe, not to gain political power. If we've got a women's council or a women's ministry and it is allocating land, it should allocate land to all the women in Zimbabwe. When we're talking of natural resources, we are all Zimbabweans. It doesn't mean that if I am of a different political persuasion or ideology, I am a lesser Zimbabwean to the one who believes in Zanu-PF. We are all Zimbabweans at the end of the day. But the other challenge is we are also the ones who are not advocating for us to be allocated the same land. You'll find other people saying this land issue is a Zanu-PF thing. No, the land issue is a national issue and everyone should be involved in it. I want land and everyone should want that land because because it is our heritage. It belongs to every Zimbabwean, it belongs to me, and it belongs to you. So when we start talking about the land issue, let's all go there, fill up their offices and say, I also want a part of my land. We cannot keep on suffering and saying we don't have jobs. They should allocate land to us. Let's go and identify the mines and start saying, this is ours. We are Zimbabweans and not only Zanu-PF people. That is my thinking and what young people are supposed to be doing. Rather than crying every time that we are suffering from exclusion, they are not including us. Who do you think is going to include you? You have to open up that space and make sure that you include yourself.
All right, let me take you back a bit. You talked about the avenues area, which is synonymous with prostitution and whatnot. And if I'm not mistaken, it falls under Harare Central. Right. If and when elected in 2018, what changes are we likely to see coming from you with regards to that area?
I think the first change would be lobbying for our investor-friendly policies so as to attract investment and to at least get most of these women working. I think I'm still fighting for the land issue. At least if people are allocated land, they'll find something to do, to sustain their livelihoods. The reason why women are there is because they're hopeless. And there's no other way to sustain their livelihoods. And they find that as the easier option in this harsh economic climate. So it all goes back to the socio-economic rights. I think I'll advocate for socio-economic rights to be realized, that everyone gets employed and the elderly will get social grants, the disabled get social grants. I think that is very important and very critical at this juncture.
All right, as we wrap up now, I always ask this question to all my guests who come here. No, I'll start with you. What kind of an election would you want to see in 2018, or as we head towards 2018?
A violence-free pre-election period, whereby everyone is free to voice out their opinions. Everyone is free to campaign. Everyone is free to talk about their views. And a free and fair election.
What's a free and fair election?
A fair election is whereby the outcome of whatever, it's not tampered with. A fair results whereby whatever, be it Zanu-PF, be it MDC, be it what, it's fair and it's truthful. Because I think that's the main challenge that disheartens a lot of people. Would they really actually, would it really be free and fair? Yeah. So that is what I want.
All right, and then to aspiring MP Linda Masarira.
Okay, what I would want for the 2018 election is having debates amongst aspiring MPs in a constituency and make people vote for the best candidate. Secondly, I want us to appreciate each other and stop the hate speech and stop the sexist statements. And I believe that change starts with us. We cannot we cannot keep on going on with this hate speech at this stage in our lives and in this century. We have to be able to articulate issues and what we're supposed to be doing for the people we want to vote for us. I also want an election that is violent-free. And where Zanu-PF will not be allowed to coerce voters to vote for them, especially in the rural areas. I think that is what I really want for the 2018 elections, and I want them to be transparent and the results to be pronounced in the allocated time. Exactly.
All right, it's been the program Youth and the Road to 2018, where I had Noktula, an aspiring councillor for Harare Central, which was under Harare Central constituency, and Linda Masarira, who is also going to be running for Harare Central constituency. So I think they've said what they have to say there to say, and it's up to you now to vote for her or not. My name is Lovejoy, and let's meet again in the next program.
For these and other stories, visit our website www.263chat.com. Follow us on Twitter @263chat and like our Facebook page 263chat.